And we're now recording. So welcome everyone. And I appreciate it if you would keep yourself muted unless you have a question or you just want clarification on something. So welcome to the summer Ho'oponopono Forgiveness Technology Healing Circle. I'm hailing in this moment from Mount Shasta, California, in the foothills, where I do great fortune of having Patti Kaleokalani Miller with us today. She's was my partner in writing the book Hawaiian Shamanistic Healing, published by Llewellyn, and she sings on all the albums that I've recorded for the last 15 years, and she's going to be gracing us with a chant and the parable from Molokai about the bowl of light, and then we'll get deeper into the material. But as I said, I'm Wayne Kealohi Powell, and I am in love with this work. That's why we're doing this session, and I'll share more about that after Patti does her introduction. I've been doing Hawaiian body work since '95. I've been doing holistic health practices, touch for health, applied kinesiology, and orthobionomy since the '80s. And I have that book I wrote with Patti. I have 9 albums. Then I'm finishing the 9th album actually today. That's why I'm in Mount Shasta. And another book coming out in a couple of months that is about this work we're doing today. The book is called The Sacred Apology. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce Patti, and we'll begin the flow of rituals after she introduces herself. Welcome, Patti.
Aloha, everybody. And thank you for having me, Wayne. Thank you for being here, everyone. This is such a wonderful opportunity for all of us to gather together and join in the spirit of aloha, which is the spirit of unconditional love. So it's always a good time for that. It just feels like a really powerful time on the planet to me for manifesting our heart's desires, for putting out our intentions to the universe for positive change and the best possible outcome for all considered. So I really believe in the power of people joining together with their intentions and uniting together with a united purpose and the purpose of healing. And that's why I do this work, is because I really enjoy the synergy of group activities. And yeah, it just really amplifies the power of our prayers. It amplifies the power of our intentions. It amplifies the power of our hearts. And when all of our hearts are united, really anything is possible. So yeah, I think you all heard I live in BC, Canada, in Gibsons, and I traveled back and forth to Hawaii a lot for about 15 years and studied with a few different teachers over the years and taught with Wayne for many years. So it's a blessing to be on this path, and I love studying Indigenous cultures. I really appreciate the gifts of the traditions that are held by the Indigenous people. And really it's humbling to learn any kind of Indigenous teachings. Is very humbling, but to actually carry the teachings and share the teachings is even more humbling. So one of my favorite things about Indigenous teachings is because it makes you humble. So yeah, I'm just humbly here to support your forgiveness process today, and I hope that you've all had time to think about you're carrying, and whatever traumas that you're experiencing, or the effects of the trauma, or how this time might be bringing up different things for you from issues that are being brought up to heal, because we can't carry these things forward into where we're going. So it's a good time to drop these things and make our burdens light, so that we can move forward and with ease and grace into this new time that we're entering. So the other favorite thing about Indigenous teachings for me is the connection to the body and the connection to the earth. So I always bring that, we always, in Hawaiian teachings, we always honor the ancestors, acknowledge the presence of the ancestors, but we also acknowledge the presence of all the living things that are here. So all the living things around us, the things that we can see with our immediate eyes. You might want to look around your space at all the living things you see, the plants, the grass, maybe the trees outside, the animals that you might be able to see. And then there's bugs, there's little things floating through the air. There's so many living creatures all around us, even on our bodies, the bacteria. And in Hawaiian culture, we honor every living thing, all life. So even inanimate objects have a sense of a spirit. Everything has a spirit in Hawaiian culture. So when you say aloha, you're greeting the person who you are face to face with, but you're also greeting all of their ancestors. You're also greeting all the living creatures that are around you that are witnessing this joining together in the spirit of aloha. So my teachers taught me to say aloha kako, which is bringing your warm blessings of love to all the living creatures around you, even the ones you can't see, even the ones you don't know about, even the inanimate objects that are here to support you. Understanding that when you greet these things with love, you join with them in consciousness, and you then have all of their support and their love available for you for whatever purpose you're trying to achieve. So when we say aloha kako, it's to bring everything together with love and everyone together with love. So aloha kako. And Ho'oponopono is all about aloha. The teachings are very simple. If it's not aloha, it's not pono. So if it's not aloha, don't do it. But if you do something that's not aloha and you know that it's not pono, then you apologize. And then you make it right. So that's the Hawaiian teachings of Ho'oponopono. So it's gotten to this level today where it's gone much more esoteric and much more expansive, understanding that whenever you forgive and release judgment, you're releasing judgment for everyone on the whole planet. So the work we do today for ourselves, for our families, for our loved ones, of forgiveness is going to bring healing energy to everyone on the planet and to the earth.
True that.
Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Wayne?
That was beautiful, Patti. Thank you. Yeah, and we are standing on what Patti just said about Ho'oponopono. So I'll just interject that what I'm going to share with you when she's activated the circle with the chant, the prayer, is standing on the roots of what she just said about Ho'oponopono. And I'll be bringing you a more contemporary kind of philosophical interaction with that ancient practice.
So the teachings are all about oneness and connectedness. So understanding that if you hurt another, you hurt yourself. And understanding that even your thoughts create outcomes, your beliefs create outcomes. And so when you clear the limiting thoughts, the limiting beliefs, the patterns of reaction, the patterns of overreaction, then you bring about positive results in your life. And I'm sure like all of you have some knowledge of Ho'oponopono already if you're here, most likely. But the original parable that they offered, I'm not sure if all of you have heard of, but it's called the Bowl of Light. Has anybody heard of the Bowl of Light? If you have, you can raise your hand. The parable of the Bowl of Light. So the original Hawaiian people called themselves the keepers of the Bowl of Light. So the Bowl of Light is the purity of spirit. It's the purity that you're born with before you take on any limiting beliefs or any judgments. It's the purity of your soul, really, your bowl of light, and it's your essence. So these particular family lineage of this Hawaiian lineage understands themselves to be the keepers of the bowl of light. So they are here to tend to releasing judgment for the whole planet, really, to carry that teaching to the whole people of the earth. So they also call themselves the rainbow people. And they understand that they have a connection to the Pleiades, a star nation that kind of lives throughout the entire Pacific region. So whenever you're calling this language of Hawaiian language into being by speaking it, you're activating like the knowledge of these star beings. So the Hawaiian medicine is very connected to the stars. So the bowl of light is what connects you to your universe. It connects you to your ancestors. It connects you to your power, to your purity. And in Hawaiian culture, it resides in your belly, in the center of your being. So if you take on any fear, any guilt, any resentment, any trauma, any sadness, any lower vibrational emotions or contraction energy, tension, it's like putting rocks into your bowl of light. So the more rocks you begin to carry in your bowl of light, the less light can shine out of your bowl of light. So Ho'oponopono is the process of removing the rocks from the bowl of light so that your light can shine brightly and freely and purely as it was intended to. Mm-hmm. And in that way, you are clear to manifest freely what you truly, truly desire because you're not blocking the energy anymore. So mm-hmm. Before anything, we do Ho'oponopono. But before we do anything, we always chant. And then before we do any chanting, we always breathe. So the first thing is always breathing. So the breath is very key to Hawaiian culture. It connects you to source, it connects you to spirit, it connects you to your high self. So very important before beginning Ho'oponopono to connect to your high self and bring in that light of your high self. And with the support of your high self, you can remove the rocks from the bowl of light.
And I use the term going vertical for what Patti just stated. And that's why I drag this poster around all over the world to show people that they can actually breathe in light for this assistance in relieving what doesn't belong.
Right, so we'll be doing some of that today as well. So let me see if I can remember the parable. I think I can remember it. So I think it goes like this. Every child has at birth a perfect bowl of light. And with this light, you can do and understand all things. You can swim with the birds. I mean, you can fly with the birds. You can swim with the sharks. And you can learn to know and understand all things. But if he or she encounters guilt, anger, energy, or draining energy, the energy of fear, resentment, you're picking up a rock and placing that rock in your bowl of light. And a stone cannot grow and a stone cannot move. So the more stones you carry, your light begins to grow dim. But if you desire to remove the rocks from your bowl of light, all you have to do is turn over the bowl and your light will begin to grow once more. So that's basically the parable. So you just turn over your bowl, pour your heart out, speak your truth, acknowledge the trauma that happened, acknowledge where these beliefs came from, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge your guilt, and then call upon your high self and all your ancestors to bring in the light of spirit to heal your body, heal your soul, bring it back into lightness, to bringing light into your soul once more so you can shine to the world and live your purpose and manifest your heart's desires.
Amen.
So sometimes it's helpful if you're someone who likes to visualize, you can visualize that you are actually removing rocks from a bowl of light while you're doing Ho'oponopono. And yeah, it's just a nice symbol to always remember that. One of the teachings of the Hawaiian people is that when you ask for forgiveness, you're taking that rock out of your bowl and placing it on the ground before the person you're asking for forgiveness from. And it's up to that person whether they want to pick up the rock or not. So if they say, oh, you say, I am sorry, please forgive me, and you place your rock before the other person on the ground, and they say, oh, I forgive you, then they're not picking up the rock. But if they say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't forgive you right now, I'm just too angry, I'm too upset, I don't forgive you, then that's them taking the rock and then putting it into their bowl. So it's also a big part of the Hawaiian teachings that if someone sincerely asks for your forgiveness, that you should really do your best to sincerely forgive them. So it's all about being sincere. So what do you truly, truly, truly want to forgive today? And where is your heart? It's all about really feeling your emotions, being vulnerable, really feeling into like, what are you carrying today that you're really ready to let go of? So I'm not going to talk any longer. I'm just going to say a chant so that Wayne can actually do what Wayne does best. And thank you again for being here with your open hearts and your presence. And bless you all. So
let's all drop in while Patti begins her chant so you can internalize what she is doing. And after she finishes her chant, I'll say a blessing prayer and then we'll begin the process.
All right, so I'm going to do an opening song that they use to call in the high self. It's used to open a lot of hulas. It's used to open a lot of feasts, a lot of celebrations. And the hula singers often come in walking into the space, singing this song to bless the space, to call in the high self of everyone present, to call in all the ancestors who are present. So this chant calls to your high self, to the high selves of all your ancestors, and for all of us here to feel the higher wisdom, the higher perceptions, and get the higher perspective of these dramas that we are all witnessing. All right. You can all take a nice deep breath. Just settling into your chair, opening your breath. Maybe take a nice big sigh, like, I've arrived. Eh, ho mai. Eh, ho mai. Eh, ho mai. Ho mai ka ike mai luna mai e. O na mea huna no e au. O na mele ho mai ho mai ho mai ho mai ka ike mai luna mai o na mea huna no e au o na mele ho mai ho mai ho mai ho mai ka ike mai luna mai o na mea huna no e au o na mele ho mai ho mai ho mai
Keep
Take
breathing
another
deeply.
breath just to invite that presence of your high self to come forward into the forefront of your consciousness with the breath of life. Mahalo.
Father, Mother God, thank you for this opportunity to connect again with the Hawaiian ancestors and the source of this work. We bless Morna Simeona. We bless I Haleakala Hulin. We bless Joe Vitale, and we bless the hundreds of thousands of people who are sharing Ho'oponopono around the planet. We bless the miracles that are happening today. We bless the life streams of everyone that is participating here in a body and those who are participating who are not in a body. We bless the ancestors of the land we're each standing on. We bless all the directions. Wherever one is, we bless north, south, east, west, above, below, and within. And we bless the power of aloha, the spirit of aloha, to usurp any trauma or drama that we may be carrying. We bless the power of kala, forgiveness, to let go of these stones from our bowl of light and to realize how much love can flow once again in that relationship with ourselves and with another. We bless all the forgiveness technology that is helping people free themselves from the bondage of negative emotions and downward spirals and ill health. Thank you, Mahalo Aumakua, for this blessing. Aumakua mai ka po'aiola, ho ikea mai ikeola. A mama ua noa lele vale akuala. Fly off and manifest. Ke pau. Take a couple of more deep breaths vertically from above you into your belly. Let's go a little bit deeper into this before we begin story. I want everyone to slowly inhale to a count of 7, and then we're going to hold the breath for a count of 4, and then exhale for a count of 7, and hold the breath out for a count of 4. Begin on my mark. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale deeply, 7, and hold. 1, 2, Exhale slowly for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale fully and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slowly inhale for 7, vertically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold the breath out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to hold it for a count of 7 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Slowly exhale and breathe normal. Feel yourself in this Zen point, this 0 point of connecting to the entire earth, all of nature, in this still place in your heart. Keep your eyes closed and come home. Just let everything rest. Releasing any tension in your mind or in your body, like you're laying in a hammock that's not moving. All right. Now let's take a deep breath. You can open your eyes. And I want you to look at this poster behind me, if you would, please. Get a really good mental imprint. Because what I'm going to share with you today, and what Patti has already shared with us so sweetly, is that just above us, the I Am teachings say about 14 feet, although it's an arbitrary figure, or a relative figure, is our souls, our oversoul, whatever you want to call it, our high self, our God self, our angelic self. More light than we can fit in the body lives above us. People who incarnate, people who come in, people who have had near-death experiences, they all say the same thing, that when they left their body, they went up into a light stream of infinite, warm, loving compassion that they had no words for. It felt very like being held by cosmic parents as a newborn baby. And they all, no matter how they died, they all say the same thing. So we've come to realize that who we are in a body is this light. And that's where our journey begins. As the sperm enters the egg and the spark of divinity starts to take form. And your soul starts on a new journey in this body. And as Patti stated, as a young child, This is why we love to gaze into a baby's eyes. It reflects pure innocence. And that's who we are. Yet as we grow and we don't have the capacity to process, to ingest, to digest a lot of the hurtful experiences that we have in life, in the parable, it'd be equivalent to picking up a stone and putting it in the bowl. In our culture, what is taught about forgiveness is not effective. And it's because what is being taught or has been taught through this particular culture that I'm aware of and grown up in, that forgiveness is based in separation thinking. And there's a place for that. You know, when a child hits another child, the first response as instinct is for the child that's been hit to hit the child back. I mean, there has been war on this planet ever since recorded time. There's never been a time when Earth has not been in war somewhere. So this is part of our nature. Yet the technology I'm sharing with you today is not based in separation consciousness. It stems from the Hawaiian culture, it stems from the Course in Miracles, it stems from Kahuna science, it stems from the source, the roots of all spiritual paths and religions. What I mean by the roots is all the roots are entangled under the earth because they're all the same. They all believe, you know, they all have this source of unity and with the one spirit. Yet as the tree grows, you know, into that religion, that spiritual path, enters dogma and doctrine about what to do, what not to do, what to believe, what not to believe. And that's where the differences take place. So here we have a paradox and a polarity. The roots are sourcing from the one spirit, every spiritual path, every religion. But as they grow from the earth, they become different and separate. So our mind is wired towards polarity and separation. It's just the way the mechanism works. It's not anything wrong with us. It's just the way it works. If you know about the mind, you can watch, you know, an upward thought, a downward thought. You know, they're constantly going on. An upward thought will create a good feeling. A downward thought will create a feeling that you're not really crazy about. This is going on constantly. And where do those feelings come from? Where do those thoughts come from? That's why I call this the technology of forgiveness. Because as Patti stated, a stone and light cannot assume the same space in the parable. That's why the stones need to be removed for the light once again to shine. Now, what does that look like in modern day experiences here on Earth? Well, as I said earlier, we've all had experiences in relationship where we were deeply hurt. And what that does, when the experience happens and the hurt takes place, it makes an imprint into the psyche, a very strong imprint. And because we don't have the tools, or we don't take the time to use the tools to process or digest that imprint, it remains, just like the stone in the bowl of light. Most things in life pass right through. You don't even notice them because our consciousness is a filter. For example, the last time you got in your car and you drove somewhere, you know, you weren't aware of how many lines in the street there were, or how many trees you passed, or how many cars on the highway. You're not, because it just goes right through. You're experiencing all these things, but it's like a river that has no resistance. But as soon as something hits one of your belief systems, in an awkward way, or someone speaks to you in a tone of voice that hurts, it doesn't go through. And so that imprint in your consciousness is what needs to be released for you, once again, to have that relationship flow, open, for love to exist in a tangible way. So the forgiveness technology is all about releasing these imprints. In the book Zero Limits, they call them memories. And I'll give you another metaphor of a safe deposit box. You've got a whole wall of safe deposit boxes. And these are the memories that made imprints, good and bad. Doesn't matter. They made deep imprints. And so you don't, how often do you visit your safe deposit box? Maybe once a week. Some people once a month. Some people once a day. And you have a choice of which box to open, which memory to visit, and what to do with that memory. So today, we're going to have an opportunity, each one of you, to open one of those boxes. We've got a small group, and we'll process as many people as we can. Open one of those boxes, which has been bugging you. You haven't had the time, the tools, the awareness, perhaps, to release an imprint that's in your heart, in your psyche, that is standing between you and another from having a very cohesive, flowing relationship. Now, what happens when people live together is all of the patterns, let's call them, of preference and avoidance that we each have collide. This is a natural occurrence when you live with someone. What you prefer and what you don't want, everyone has these programs. When you live with somebody, they're constantly coming up. For example, why didn't you wash out the sink after you brushed your teeth? Why didn't you pick up your clothes, after you took them off? Why didn't you sweep the porch when you saw that it needed it? Why didn't you do the dishes? Why didn't you ask me what I wanted for dinner? On and on and on and on and on and on and on. Preferences and avoidances. And all of these things can pass right through when you are viewing them as awareness, that it's just a program running. Your program and their program. So when you have an argument with somebody, what's really happening is two programs are colliding. Two thoughts are colliding when you have an argument with somebody. So what is real in all of this? The only thing that's real in all of this is the love. Is the love that brought these two people into the same room or on the same call or whatever. That's the only thing that's real. So what I'm offering you today is a view of what's real. From above, viewing your situation, your relationship, your response that was so hurtful. Because I'm going to give you a little spiritual psychology before I tell you a story. In spiritual psychology, we've already talked about separation psychology, which is where we're kind of born into that mindset of separation. To view everything separate, like the tree is separate from me, the building is separate from me, the carpet separate from me. And these are relative truths to a mind that views from separation. Let's flip that for just a moment. Because everyone on this call, I'm sure, has heard that we are connected to everything and everyone. And through the one spirit, we all are one. But what does that look like through a mind that sees everything in polarity? Unity and diversity? Perhaps. through spiritual psychology, I'll give you an example. Ramana Maharshi, the great Indian mystic, when he was asked, how are we supposed to treat other people? How are we supposed to treat others? Ramana took a deep breath and he said, there are no others. Everybody take a deep breath. Because we are reprogramming you today to the extent you want to be reprogrammed. There are no others, which means we are always having an argument or a disagreement with ourself through another. Breathe that in. That's an astounding experience. To be having an argument with someone and realizing you're really just viewing your own programming in this argument. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Two programs having a conversation. Well, I believe it should be this way. Well, I don't. I think it should be this way. And this happens in all creative endeavors when you partner with teams. Everyone has different ideas that collide. And then they start dancing. If people realize that only love is real, and those ideas can be merged into a positive outcome. So the point of view of spiritual psychology from above, looking at the disagreement, everyone is innocent. And that's really hard for the ego to swallow. When you can read the atrocities happening in the world, shooters come in and with guns and just kill all these innocent students. Well, there was an article published by the parents of one of those students who knew this psychology. And it hit the front page of the paper because they did not view the shooter as a villain. The article was about having compassion for how deeply wounded the shooter was. And it was a forgiveness letter that they had lost their little girl. So there's the activity of spiritual consciousness moving through trauma. Of course, there was grieving, but they transformed the grieving into mourning, into compassion. How could you not grieve? It's important to. But then grieving can become a holding on to something that you wish would come back. But if you transform grieving into mourning, then the grieving becomes a celebration for how much love was actually there. And you experienced it in every one of your bodies. And it becomes, the grieving becomes mourning, which there's a praise in there. And then compassion for yourself and the other. So the process I want to share before we start asking you guys to come forward is going vertical. And in going vertical, we really would like to have an experience of our higher self. Now, this is very difficult because our senses, our 5 senses, have no capacity to experience our higher self. So you have to use your 6th sense, which is your sense of intuitive consciousness and imagination, to open this channel of light. And so what I call it is just above the 7th chakra. Here's the 7th chakra right here. Just above the 7th chakra is the 8th chakra, which is right here. And this actually is your halo. It sits right here. And this is the portal that your life stream enters so you can have an incarnation and exits when you leave the body. It's a very real portal. We hear from those who have died and come back. And so it's full of light. It's a ring of light. And so in order to go vertical, you want to acknowledge that this eighth center of light, this portal, exists. And you want to go through it with your mind into where you will be when you leave the body and where you came from before the body. You're connecting to that larger aspect of you, which is immortal and eternal and has no beginning, no ending, and it's just pure conscious light. Now, as this enters the body, this begets our parable Patti shared with us. And the belly is where all the plugins are for your relationships. So now we can put this all together. If we're cleaning this area where the plugins are, that relationship is going to be influenced radically, that we have a challenge with. And the most help, in my experience, that you can have is to go vertical and view what's happening from your higher self. And you use your breath and the light to keep this sweeping, this cleaning, this waterfall of pure consciousness flowing while you're doing the process. So while I'm processing one of you, all of the rest of you will be practicing your vertical breathing. And you can use, if you want, you can use the phrases silently or verbally. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, which comes from the I Haleakala Hewlin tradition. Morna had her own way of doing it, which is beautiful as well. But what I want to share with you is what's been working for me for a couple of decades now.